improvement project that we have coming up. My name is Greg Summer. I'm the town engineer. I'm joined with Jason McCabe, who is the project engineer that will be designing this project. So basically, just wanted to kind of walk you through. We're at the very early stages of the project. We had some initial stakeholder meetings, meeting with business owners, some other advocacy groups in town. And this is really the first opportunity for the general public to kind of see what we're coming up with, some of the ideas we have, and then we want to really get the feedback and input from the community, from folks like you, just to make sure that we're on the right track, and we have certainly time to adjust the design and make those any improvements that you might have to suggest as we work forward through the design. So let's go to the next one. So what we want to talk to and cover tonight, we're going to do a brief overview of the project, what we current roadway characteristics, existing conditions. We'll go through some of the proposed improvements, and then some of the conceptual intersection layouts that we have worked up, showing where some of the more significant changes will be made. Lastly, we'll have the project schedule and cost, and then open it up for feedback from the audience here. So the project area, it's Park Road from the intersection of Quaker Lane South all the way out to Prospect. So it's a pretty good stretch, covers almost the entire Park Road business district, all the way out to the City of Hartford line. So the existing conditions, we basically have about 46 feet in width for Park Road. That's from curb to curb. Really not looking to change that as part of this project. The majority of the curbing will stay in place, so we'll maintain that 46-foot width. But we're planning to reallocate it a little bit. Right now we have wide travel lanes, are about 15 feet in width, with 8-foot parking lanes on both sides. So you'll hear in a minute how we want to reallocate that and improve upon that cross-section. Posted speed limit in the corridor is about 30 miles an hour, and about 8,300 vehicles per day that use Park Road. So a good amount of traffic, which is understandable given that it's an arterial street. Pavement, obviously, as you know, is in poor condition. It's at the end of its life, so obviously there's a need to get out there and make that improvement. We were this project kind of got pushed a little bit just because some of the utility work that we had planned that was going on out there. So we did need to make sure that got addressed before we implemented our improvements. And then lastly, 1 second, sorry. So the crashes was the other thing I wanted to mention. Over the last recent 5-year period, about 140 crashes along that corridor. Most of those are at the intersections, but there are some along the whole corridor. So one of the things that we did in advance of this project is we did a road safety audit. So what that means is we basically had a multidisciplinary team. It was made up of engineers, planners. We had representatives from the police, public works, other various town departments. We also had some key stakeholders. So there were some business leaders, some of the advocacy groups, bicycle advocates were also represented. And we walked the entire corridor. So we started down at Prospect, walked all the way down to Quaker, turned around and walked back. It just gave us an interesting perspective and sharing some ideas, not being in a vehicle, actually walking the street. You get a little bit different sense and feel of what's going on out there. So really helpful. And then from that, we got a lot of good recommendations as far as safety improvements, things we could look at and work at incorporating into the project. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Jason, and he can kind of walk you through some of the improvements he has planned, and then we'll go from there.
All right, thanks, Greg. So I'm Jason McCabe. I'm the project engineer on the project. The proposed improvements that we're looking to make, the bulk of it is a lot of it is roadway resurfacing. It's a mill and overlay. We'll be doing select sidewalk repairs and replacement in areas where the sidewalk's in bad shape. We still have to do a road survey, sidewalk survey to assess that. So that's not going to be shown on any of the plans. That's up on the. We also have this long roll plan up here. We can discuss. We can use as a discussion afterwards if you have questions of anything that you may see. There's going to be additional proposed crosswalks and curb extensions. The crossings that aren't signalized of Park Road will be raised, similar to what was just installed on Boulevard. All of the ramps are mostly not accessible. Those will all be replaced. So even at pretty much every intersection. We have we'll be adding bike lanes both directions, and bicycle hitching posts, locations still to be determined. The decorative street lighting on Park Road will be completed from Oakwood down to Prospect on the south side. And then we have site amenities that we want to add, benches, landscaping, and wayfinding signage. So these are some images of some of the things that I just talked about. Upper left is the raised crosswalk. I think that's the one at Boulevard. The upper right is the curb extensions where the new curbing is brought closer to the center of the road. And the goal of that is to shorten the crosswalk distance and improve sightlines. The middle picture is a raised median, and we have one proposed at the east end of the project, coming in from Hartford. The lower left is the RRFB, or rectangular rapid flashing beacon, that will be installed on the Park Road crossings. And then that's just a bike lane on the lower right. So this is the proposed cross-section. We're going to reduce the travel lanes down to 10 feet both directions from 15 feet. The bike lanes will be next at 5 feet, and then 8-foot parallel parking on both sides. That's the bulk of the project. There is one area where we're proposing, the concept is angle parking. All right, so now these next few slides, I'm going to walk you through sort of from east to west, from coming in from Hartford. I'm just going to show for the most part, the project is the cross-section you just saw, and the mill and overlay with the striping for the travel lanes and the bike lanes. These are the areas where there's more significant changes proposed. So one of the things that came out of the road safety audit was that it would be nice to have like a gateway treatment coming in from Hartford that we could either landscape or put up, there is the wayfinding signage project that's underway. So we might add something there, a sign, welcome to West Hartford, I don't know. But there's an opportunity to add something there. So I've got that 6-foot wide raised median shown with a concept for how the travel lane and the bike lanes would transition down. So you'd need to have no parking in the transition, and then that would have to then be tied into the Hartford system. So that's still to be determined. And then across all of these slides, you're going to see replacement of all the catch basin tops. They're really old, they're beat up, they need to be, it'd be good to replace them. So. All right, this is the intersection at South Highland Street and Ringgold Street. These two roads are offset a little bit and was identified in the road safety audit. Yes? Yes.
Why not have the median at the crosswalk so that we have a gateway and pedestrian island? How come it's kind of floating in the road?
Well, the selection of that wasn't locked in. It's more of a median closer to the Hartford line, in between Warren Terrace and the first driveway that's on the north side. Sandwich in there so that you can still make the turns and get out of the driveway and into the driveway on the north side. But that would be a great comment that I got pens and I got a long roll plan up here we can write on. So. Mm-hmm. So back to South Highland Street and Ringgold. So this is this would be a curb extension treatment with a new crosswalk crossing Park Road with the raised crosswalk, 2 additional crosswalks on the side streets, and the distances of the crosswalks on the side streets have been shortened pretty much by half, and the existing crosswalk is about 30 feet. So all the ramps, there will be new accessible ramps. There's down here on the lower left is an example of, you'll see this on all the slides too, is some of the drainage modifications have to be made in order to install the new curbing and the sidewalk. And then the new decorative lights, that's just to call out on one of the lights, but there's like 15 of them along the south side of Park Road from Oakwood to Prospect. So, next slide.
Can I ask you one?
Yeah.
Do you want to hold off till the end on questions, or since not a lot of us
What?
have to hold off?
Yeah, maybe hold off on questions until the end.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, so once we get through this, if you have any questions, we can go back to the slide, or we can discuss up here further.
We're human, we might forget.
So similar treatment at Troy Street and Kingston Street. This not really an intersection, it's got a large offset. But same idea, a new raised crosswalk with new curb extensions and the shortened crosswalks on Kingston Street and Troy Street. That's I think we talked, but the other things are similar to the other intersection, yeah. All right, here's the signalized intersection at Arnoldale and Oakwood. Also has the curb extensions we're proposing, shortens up the crosswalks nicely, got the drainage modifications. No raised crosswalks on this one, signalized, so we wouldn't need to do that. And as we go through all of these, you can see the bike lane and the travel lane there. There are not any areas identified for sidewalk replacement yet, but there will be shown on the plans. So right now, on what you see on the screen and what you'll see on the drawings up here, there's no sidewalk replacement shown. It will be added later once we do the sidewalk survey. Yeah. Next. All right, here's the Nesbitt Avenue crossing. This is one has an existing crossing with a substandard crossing light, I would call it. So this one has we're going to replace the crossing. It already had curb extensions, so there's really not much change there for the length of the crossing. But there will be it'll be raised, and it'll be new RRFB, flashing beacon, installed. Nesbitt Avenue has the short crosswalk, similar to the other intersections. This one comes with a relocation of the driveway at the theater. So, right, it was on the angle, and now because of the layout of the ramp and trying to keep that driveway next to it intact, I've switched the driveway there. So,
So does the driveway go right into the garage though, like it does now? in the building? That driveway is a separate purpose for the garage.
okay.
Looks like it lines up. What do you think?
The garage
Well-
and two handicap parking spaces.
So where it is now, where I've shown it here is where the handicap stalls are. Is that right?
If you could, I mean, we could wait and look on there.
Yeah, that's probably better. Yeah, yeah.
No, at us, at the Playhouse.
That's the theater. So that's the only one that's a different thing that happened on this particular crossing as opposed to the other intersections that we talked about. And then one of the things that came out of the road safety audit was to close the driveway going into the dealership right there at the ramp. So I closed that off. Yeah.
Yeah, it confuses people.
Yeah.
Who knows why.
So that's already shown as closed off, and then I got some drainage modifications to do right there. So, all right, next. Next intersection, Washington Circle and Fairfax, similar to the other two on the east end. New crossing, new side street crosswalks, curb extensions. Nothing really different about that proposal for that intersection. Next. And then the last one is the angle parking concept in front of J. Renee and the Thai restaurant.
How was that received?
So we, for the most part, fairly well. We still have some things to work out with in front of the other property at Sweet Chili.
Yeah.
So with the way the driveway works on the right side, and how they're parking, you know. So one of the things, I just kind of summarized what the net effect on the parking is.
That was going to be my next question. What was the net?
Yeah, so the existing parallel parking out on the street is 6 stalls. The existing painted stalls on the front of the buildings that are, you know, behind the sidewalk is 13, and the proposed angled parking that you see up there is 17. So it's a net loss of 2.
It's not going to make a
So.
difference because you can't get the cars up there. Anyway.
So, yeah. The other different thing about this image, about this slide, is the bike lane is actually routed in front of the parking and then back, rather than continuing straight through. Because as far as parking and backing in and pulling in and backing out, and so that.
Guardrails at the end of the parking stalls to curb.
Curb. So yeah, right. So it's between, there'll be new curbing. It's that darker line that's on the other side of the bike symbol.
Okay.
You know, kind of running parallel to the front of the angled parking. And then we still have to figure out the lane configuration as it ties into the existing facilities on the other side of the intersection at Quaker. There's also some traffic and lane markings that have to be worked in as well. That's to be determined at this point.
So is that cutting into the property, going in,
It-
so we can have parallel?
It's not cutting into the property. It's all within the public right of way. And then we're maintaining 5 feet of sidewalk between the curb and the property line.
The width of the sidewalk now?
Can you point to the sidewalk, please?
Oh, you got it. Thank you.
He's savvy like that.
So it's between, yeah, it's right there where the where the center of the circle.
Adjacent to the bike path? Or is it, it's beside, or side by side, the bike path and the sidewalk?
Yeah, so this is the bike path coming in, and then it curves in front of the parking, and then on this side of this side is the 5-foot width of existing sidewalk.
May I ask, what is the motivating theory for this treatment if it's not to add spaces because there's a net loss in spaces?
So right now the parking is a little, I would call it substandard. It's wonky. That's a good word for it. Yeah. The parking, right now what happens is the driveway aprons, there's striping that's been put down on the private property side in front of the buildings to support parking. But none of the driveway aprons really line up with that. And the problem is that cars could get in. If they can get in, they potentially could have somebody parallel park behind them, and then you can't back out. They're having to back over the sidewalk, drive on the sidewalk to get into the stall.
And do I understand you said that where those internal spaces are now is part of the public right of way?
No, that's on the private side.
Oh, so you have to take property then to do this?
No. So all the improvements we can make are going to be on the public side, and then we're able to add the angled parking treatment with the goal of eliminating the parking, the weird parking treatment on the private side.
That black
Could
top.
I ask you to point where some of those businesses are, like the Thai restaurant, for example, or something else that's there? Yeah, okay,
So the Thai restaurant is right here. The J. Renee is over here. And then this is the driveway coming out from behind the Thai restaurant. Right here.
So the businesses gain all that frontage. They
So
now have
of those
patios.
Now what happens to the blacktop that's in front of the businesses?
Well, we wouldn't be proposing to do anything with their property, but yeah, they could then
potentially-
potentially use it for something that they haven't been able to use it for.
And to get more
Prior.
space, you're reducing the width of the sidewalk, is that?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. So the curbing would all come out in a certain width. We can scale it off the plan up here, but a certain width has to come out and then new curbing go in.
Just like off the top of my head, I mean, so let's just use J. Renee as an example. They're not gonna have the parking spaces in front of their building directly.
Yes.
They'll have the street parking, but, now if they say, well, okay, so let's make more outdoor seating, will there be a challenge to get zoning for outdoor seating to transform that blacktop into a nice outdoor seating area with the sidewalk and the parking spaces?
Well, that, yes,
and
that,
minus. So I'm just saying, like, how are we gonna sell it?
yeah.
Do you see where I'm driving? Like,
No, I understand. No,
Isn't that by special permit now? Outdoor-
that would have, is that what it is? Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
Do you see that there might be an issue for them to acquire that additional outdoor seating? Or do you think, and
Because of
I don't mean to
parking
put you on the
spaces?
spot, I'm just trying to.
Are you asking because of parking spaces
Right, because of
required?
parking or distance from the sidewalk or anything like that, I don't know, like how, I'm trying to see how we can sell it to them.
Yeah, it is something that we're working on, because we recognize there might be, especially if there's some turnover there, and they're required to have X number of parking spaces, so this is a little bit different, arrangement. So that would be, we'd have to be working with the town planner to,
Yeah.
potentially introduce a zone change, not a zone change, but a mechanism, basically,
Right.
that they could allow, those off-street spaces would basically count towards their allocation.
Correct.
To make that happen,
I just feel that
but.
it would be nice to say, hey, you could put tables out here.
That's absolutely the intent, so it's
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
improve the safety by not having vehicles
Right.
backing out onto the sidewalk, but then certainly it gives them the ability to activate that space and use it to,
For
outdoor
their benefit.
seating, to benefit their business. Yep.
Or it might be landscape, something like that.
Could be landscaped as well, sure.
Yeah.
Finish in the back, Jason.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, if I could just share an experience during the road safety audit that kind of puts a point on this.
Sure.
We were over in front of Park Lane Pizza, conversing, and we heard this big thud, loud thud. We turned around, and there's a big sign just east of J. Renab, the cleaner.
At the Taylor's.
It was at the Taylor's.
Mm-hmm.
And that sign was now on a 45-degree angle. A car had backed into it, was now up on it. The car wheels were spinning, and the whole thing was literally knocked out of its foundation. Now, that car backed up out of a parking spot, lost control, and slammed into that sign. And if a pedestrian had been there at that time, they would have been pinned between the car and that sign.
Yeah.
That parking, diagonal parking in front of J. Renee and the others is so dangerous for pedestrians. Those cars back
Absolutely.
up out onto the sidewalks.
Yeah.
That alone is a huge selling point for this design.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot safer parking
Yeah.
on the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Excuse me, before you leave there,
Yeah.
do you want to speak to that channelized right turn lane there, or whether that's going to stay or what? Yeah, the right turn lane.
as far as like removing the island, or
Are you, is that supposed to point a change, or is that going to stay?
it'll stay. It'll be striped probably differently and controlled in a different way.
Can you say
So.
no?
We're still working on that. So as far as the traffic and the signalization goes, and how the movements work, we're still vetting that out.
In the opposite direction, going east on Park Road is really, really challenging.
Where the lane? You're talking about where the lanes?
So, right, so take Park Lane Pizza, on that corner.
Yeah.
When you're driving east and you wanna take a left turn on Park, and there's people that wanna take a left turn on, driving west, and wanna take a left turn on
Quaker.
I do it every day.
Yeah.
And I still don't know what to do.
So one of the things that we can do is kind of a simple thing and it's been the road safety audit, is that when we do restripe the intersection, because the project limit actually extends across the intersection with the new paving, so we're gonna have to remark the whole intersection, and one of the things we're probably end up doing is have the dotted lines that help people understand which path.
Right turn only, if
Yeah.
you turn right, if you're driving
Better.
east, you can only turn right. I mean, it's just confusing, and then when cars are coming across from Quaker, you wanna go, keep continuing across, and you wanna turn the left, people don't know whether they should turn in front or behind the car.
Right. Now, I know one of the things from my experience, because I've lived in town for like 20 years, one of the things that I've noted, it used to be that before they put the bike lane on the north side, on that side of Park, there was 2 lanes that used to go across, and you could merge,
Still two traffic.
and it's still kind of striped that way,
Yeah.
like right here.
That's right.
So that definitely will end up getting a pavement marking treatment that's going to help people understand, what's ahead and what's what to do. So next. Okay, moving on to project schedule. So we're still in design. It's ongoing. Like I said, I've got some pens up here. We can discuss afterwards, make some notes. Some of the comments that have already come up, which is the public outreach part. There's permitting that's going to be taking place. We hope to have the final design done by next spring, with a bid and award right after, and then construction starting in the summer, and hopefully complete by the end of the year. I think.
What do you mean by permitting? Permits for specifically what?
So
Greg?
So it's actually funded through, there's some state funding involved. So the DOT has gone through, they did permit analysis. And so I think there's this State Historic Preservation Office that we need to do some permitting through that office. I think we had to go to, was it water? I don't really know why they triggered this. Yeah, there's that one. There's like the water resources through DEP, the fisheries. I'm not sure why that got triggered. I think that was an error, but so I mean I don't anticipate it being a major obstacle, but we do need to follow that set process that they've set up again, because there is some state funding that's tied to this. So got to play by their rules.
So it's a good thing both of you were active as children, jumping through the holes, as kids.
Absolutely.
A lot of hoops to jump.
Absolutely. And then, you want to keep going?
Sure, I'll go. Okay, so the project cost is, the resurfacing alone is over $1 million, so estimated at over $1 million. The sidewalks and curb extensions, $650. Bike facilities, $25,000. Just really, as far as bike facilities go, I mean, that's pavement markings and signage. Safety enhancements with the crosswalks and curb extensions and the warning lights, and then our traffic signal modifications. The decorative street lighting comes in at $150, and other amenities estimated at $100,000. So the total is up there at the top. I skipped over that. That all adds up to about $2.25 million, and with $1.5 million being funded through a grant from the state.
Any chance of some of that nice green paint for the bike lanes?
We're looking at it. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
How about the lighting that's on the north side? You know, when they, we did things 24 years ago, whatever it was, that when they put things, everything underground on that side.
Yes.
Is there any way to match that on the other side and get rid of the sort of harmonious?
Yes, so that's the goal. So what happened a couple years ago, we went ahead and added lighting on the south side from Quaker to Oakwood that matches the decorative lighting on the other side. And this project will then continue that and finish it from Oakwood to Prospect. It's on the plans. It's about 15 additional lights. So
How many raised crosswalks are there in the project?
3, 4. Tried to space them out evenly between, like a quarter length of the project. Yeah.
How about, and we discussed
Mhm.
We're kind of haphazard there, and some lights that can come out, and personally, my neighbor there's a tree right on the sidewalk that is completely diseased and so forth, and I don't know if it's a town tree, so the town had planted some trees right there. Have there been any accommodations or any thoughts onto some of those, removing them or trimming them back, or, I mean, this tree's hanging over the power lines and so forth?
Yeah, so one of the.
I know we talk curb to curb, but
Yes,
there are some.
but the project extends beyond that in the sense that there's going to be select sidewalk repairs done, and the poles, the telephone, like for instance, the poles.
Right.
You know, sometimes they just do a poor job of putting the brick back, and so that would get repaired. We're going to do a sidewalk survey and identify the areas that need to be shown on the plans for repair. And then as far as landscaping goes, I mean, there's going to be landscape treatments that we are looking at, trees, new trees, you know, plantings. Not sure what that looks like yet, but if there's existing trees that need to be dealt with, we would. If it just kind of depends on whether it's on private property,
Right.
public
That's one of the
side.
things I need to figure out.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I think what John's also referring to is Eversource replaced poles, but then left the old poles there. And they're-
The double poles, yes.
Is there any hope of getting them to get them out of there, or?
Yes, I mean we can.
It's easier said than done because there's a process. So what will happen anytime there's a utility pole that gets replaced, Eversource will transfer their lines, and then they sometimes notify the next utility company down to transfer theirs, and so on, all the way down. Eversource is very good. Usually it's Frontier is next, and then that's when it starts to fall apart, and they kind of just get stuck. So there's hundreds of these throughout town. We've been working closely with utility companies trying to improve that and get rid of them. But yeah, anytime we do these projects, that's a great opportunity to really start looking at it and you know, see if we can't move those along. It makes sense to get them out of there. And I know they're an eyesore, so that's a good point, and we'll certainly look at trying to incorporate that into as part of this project.
So, I mean, I acknowledge and I thank you for the bike lanes, but there's a lot of cars that park on this road, and there's a lot of studies that show that doors on bike lanes are pretty dangerous. Why can't the bike lanes go next to the sidewalk inside the park?
So that was something that we looked at as part of the RSA. We evaluated if it made sense to shift the bike lanes. Unfortunately, it didn't work with the bump outs because now your bike lane wouldn't be able to get through there. It also kind of creates I know there's the dooring issue, but it's almost better to have that a driver would be a little more alert than a passenger. So now, if a passenger's getting out of the car, they may not be as, alert as a motorist driving the vehicle, and you may have that same issue. And now the cyclist really has nowhere to go because now they're pinned between the car and the curb. At least if they're in the bike lane between the travel lane and the parked car, they have some room to maneuver, and they can work through that way. But we did evaluate that, and that was the recommendation. FHI Studio was the consultant. They've also developed our updated bike plan that we worked with them on. So that was the recommendation that they came up with. Sure.
Along the lines of bike path, is this the same Oregon company that did the one on Boulevard recently, bike lanes there? Or is this a different organization?
Well, I assume you're asking about the way it meanders back and forth?
No, I'm specifically asking about the section right when you're coming from the west, heading east on Boulevard, and you approach Trout Brook.
Okay.
The bike lane literally turns into the turn right on red for the vehicle too. I mean, it
Mhm.
merges into one lane.
Mm-hmm.
Familiar with that section?
Yep.
Okay, so, very confusing. I don't know if that's something that's planned for Park Road, because I agree, I think it's an extremely busy road.
We would have to look at it. The only I could see potentially there's a conflict point at the intersection with Prospect. It's kind of the same treatment, and that's what Jason pointed out earlier. Because I think right now it's striped with a left through and a right turn lane. So the idea with the bike lane is you want to bring them, if the bike lane's continuing straight, you don't want them to be on the right side of that right turning lane, because now you have a cyclist that's trying to go straight while all your cars are going to be turning right into him. So you want the bicyclist to the left of the right turn lane. So that's why you have that mixing zone on Boulevard near Trout Brook. It's where the cyclist, the bike lane ends up transitioning over. Now it's on the left side of that right turn lane. So I think there is some sign. You can take a look at it though and see. But I know that's a standard treatment that is part of one of the reference, the NACTO bike guide. So that's where that came from.
Yeah, Greg. So there are in the City of Hartford, there are bike lanes just on the east side of Prospect, and then west of Quaker, bike lanes are proposed that would eventually connect to the Trout Brook Trail and continue out on Sedgwick. So have you looked at those two intersections? Is there room to carry those bike lanes through the intersections so you're connecting Hartford to the west without creating a mixing zone where the cars and bikes are now sharing a lane?
Yeah, that's certainly something that we'll look into. We recognize there is the value of having that connectivity into Hartford, and then certainly to get back to the Trout Brook Trail. We haven't gotten there yet, but that will be something that we'll be looking at as we get a little bit further into the design. And I appreciate that comment.
Have you decided if you're going to work from west to east, east to west, when the project starts?
I don't know if you have. I don't think we have. Typically, that's something that the contractor would determine. So we're a little ways off yet. Most likely, what we'll do is once we have the plans are designed and bid, and we have a contractor selected, that would probably be a good time. At least reach out to the business owners, the key stakeholders along the corridor, and kind of talk through that at almost a pre-construction type similar meeting, just to ask those questions and kind of work through any concerns that might come up, and they'll have a better idea of schedule and exactly how we can work through the project collaboratively together.
And I just have a question, going back at the intersection of Quaker, and you put the angled parking, does that reduce the width of the car travel area at that intersection when you gotta take a right, go straight, take a left?
Can you go back to this?
Right there. With
So-
putting the angled parking in, does it reduce the width of the car travel area?
Well, we are reducing overall the travel lane down to 10 feet. And then it needs to transition, it's not shown, but it has to transition into that right turn lane. And the way I've got it shown now is there may be an adjustment, this way or that, not that way probably, but if we need to, in order to transition that correctly in the best way possible, shorten the parking up by, a little, that hatched area that's no parking may need to become smaller if that's what we need to do.
It's one lane, and then when you get to Quaker, you make a determination if you're going right, you're going straight, or you're going
Honestly,
left.
right now,
Right.
it's not wide enough anyways.
Well,
So,
Right.
it might keep people in single file a little longer.
So,
I know what you're saying, though.
so yeah, once you get past the parking, you're gonna, the cars, the way it is now, they stack, they can come in a pair.
Sort of.
Yes, or make the right turn. So, again, that's gonna still be, we've got to lane stripe that thing, that intersection, so.
Truck can fit there. Or like a Suburban, like a longer vehicle won't stick out. In that parking like that, the depth.
Well,
The angle part? Yeah.
in the angle parking, well, those are standard, those are 18-foot stalls. 8 foot wide, 18 feet. So,
May I ask a question about that corner there? As you go up Quaker, there's, next to the package store, there's a tattoo parlor and then a barber shop. Are those commercial spaces within the project area?
so I'm sorry, which part, around the corner, and then,
Those are back up on the sidewalk again.
As you go around the corner, there's a package store, then I believe a tattoo
part
parlor
of that building.
and a barber shop. And I'm asking if that's part of the project area as
no,
well.
in the sense that the paving extends around Quaker to that dashed line up there where the red marker is. that's the limit. We're gonna pave up to that point, but there's not gonna be any work outside the curbs.
Um, uh, uh, the line you're talking about, where is that in relation to the gas station across the street?
It's opposite almost the driveway on the Shell station. Right.
So they're gonna repave, right?
That's repaving, yeah.
It goes just beyond that commercial strip.
No, we're not doing anything with parking. Once you make the turn on Quaker, there's nothing going on parking on that. Just,
Yeah, they're up on the sidewalk again, on that side.
yeah, so those existing,
Paving goes up to, at this point. At this point, my question is, how far up does the paving go? I'm just trying to, I understand it goes to that dotted line, I was just saying, where is the dotted line? Is it
So-
beyond that commercial strip or?
no, it's not, it's before the driveway into that commercial, that goes in behind the restaurants.
You can see the depth of the building.
So just before the gas station driveway and before the driveway to turn into like where Sweet Tea.
There you go. So, Greg, the catch basins is basically the limit, the double catch basins. Yeah, just beyond those two catch basins is where the paving limit is.
So just before the driveway to the Shell. Scenario is
Yes,
on that side.
yes.
There's a driveway there, will that stay?
Yes, those driveways are staying. Yes, yes,
The whole configuration and width stays the same.
yes,
Yeah, that's correct.
yes. Yeah, again, the curbing, just keep in mind the curbing for the most part is staying where it is. So the width, the available width is the same as it was.
It'd be good to get those,
Before.
two of those trees put back in and get cut down. There, but that's private property.
Which, I'm not sure where I'm not sure where it is that you're talking about.
South Daly's package store, right where
Oh, where those three trees are shown?
trees there,
Yeah.
and they cut them down for parking, whoever it was, in front of those two stores. Anyways.
Okay.
Can we go back to that the diagram? The way the bike lane terminates doesn't seem right. Like you can't, I don't think you can terminate the bike lane like that directly into the right turning traffic.
So that's still to be determined. So I just have it, that's just the whole idea here was to show the concept of the angle parking with the bike lane in front of the parking. The way it ties in with the bike facilities to the west and the intersection is, we're still looking at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then further down the road where you have the north-south streets and you've bumped out the pedestrian crosswalks, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Are those going to be one-ways or are they just really narrow two-ways?
Can you go back to one of the,
Those.
yeah, that one, yeah. Okay, so this width here is the same, it's 20 feet.
So it's a narrow two.
It's a narrow, it's 10 feet similar, it's a 10-foot travel lane. Similar to what we're doing on Park. Yeah.
Could we see the South Highland intersection? I know that when people are coming down South Highland, the tendency is to like creep way out into the road. And it creates a really dangerous situation there. But you know, I live on South Highland, and when I come down there, I find myself doing the same thing because you can't see. I'm wondering, in your expert opinion, is there a way to solve that problem that, you know, like you have to creep out because you can't see the traffic coming from the
That was not safety.
Yeah. Yeah, that is something, and it's always kind of a challenge, especially in the commercial areas where you have a high amount of on-street parking, and you know it's not an uncommon occurrence, unfortunately. And because you have the crosswalks there, you know you need to stop in advance of the crosswalk. So you are, you know, the stop signs set back quite a ways from the edge of the travel lane, so it doesn't put you at a great perspective. But yeah, really the intent is you would come to a stop, and then yeah, you need to kind of creep forward, and by having the bike lanes, that kind of affords you a little bit more space to creep forward. You do have that ability because now the travel lane is 5 feet further away essentially. But yeah, that's something we can look at too is, how far do we want to pull the parking back from those intersections? But it's a balancing act, right? Because now, there's business owners here that are going, oh, wait, I don't want to lose parking. But, it's a trade-off. So we got to find what that right balance is.
I mean, as a resident, I want a light there. I want to stop right there. I don't know if that's
Yeah, for an intersection like that, it really, there's certain warrants and criteria that needs to be met in order to establish a traffic signal. And based on the volumes, it wouldn't be warranted at that location.
I think it's harder just because it's angled. Square that comes in, square to it, and it's a sign of light viewership. That's what we need to turn.
Annual parking, I may have missed this, you may have said it, is only scheduled to be developed in front of the Thai restaurant and nowhere else on?
Nowhere else.
Nowhere else. And there's a reasoning for that, just because?
That was identified in the road safety as one of the primary locations that could use it. Just because of the way it's being used now in this kind of wonky way.
Is there other areas that you have in mind that you'd think of?
There's a lot of activity down by Troy, which is where I live, and there's a lot of restaurants around there. And if you're beautifying the place, people are always going to ask parking. So if it makes more sense, I didn't know if it. I mean, that's just as busy as Rick J and A, except it's evening stuff instead of morning coffee. So I just didn't know if that was something that was considered. Because we get a lot of people parking on our road.
Yep. Okay.
It's another issue. But
Yeah, something we can take a look at and see if there's other opportunities. A lot of it will be based on we need to work closely with the business owners, and and there's going to be some. There's got to be a mutual, need to cooperate there, before we go ahead and do that. So.
Somebody asked
Oh.
whether the bike lanes are be painted green, but I didn't catch what the answer was.
We're looking at that.
Look,
Yes. And not committing to it, but definitely.
What's the drawback of it? What's the negative?
It's twofold. It's cost and then long-term maintenance. Yeah. The cost and then the ability upkeep. Yeah.
Put down green asphalt. Two things regarding the bike lanes. What a lot of municipalities do is they simply paint the bike lanes green, like within 25 feet of an intersection, and with the cat tracks through the intersection painted green. So you're not painting the majority of the bike lanes are not being painted green, but at the intersections, that treatment it identifies that's a bike lane, especially important at those intersections. But my other question is, at the two main intersections at Prospect and at Quaker, are those pedestrian phases? Would those be exclusive pedestrian? That is, all traffic stops, and then the pedestrians are going to be crossing. I know that's the case at Prospect. Is it also over at Quaker?
I believe that's the way it's currently operating. I don't think we have we haven't looked at changing it at this point, but it will be something we look at as part of the project. The state's kind of making that push to go from exclusive to concurrent. I think they're finding that you do get general better compliance. A lot of times with the exclusive, so what ends up happening, all the traffic stopped, and it's just the pedestrians that are walking, versus a concurrent where pedestrians are crossing with parallel traffic. So when traffic's moving east-west, that's when pedestrians would cross in that direction. By introducing the exclusive, it requires a pedestrian to wait through both those, both traffic movements before that comes up. So if it was concurrent, it comes up, you're crossing one or the other direction every phase of that cycle. So pedestrians won't necessarily have to wait as long. You may see better compliance. So that's kind of the trade-off. But in doing so, there's other drawbacks with that. It introduces potentially like a leading pedestrian interval where the pedestrian actually gets a little bit of a head start before the vehicular signal turns green. So there's other countermeasures that we can explore. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be part of this project, but that's kind of what we're looking at other parts of town as well. Yep.
But if you're allowing right on red at those intersections, you could be making a right-hand turn at any time that you have, the red light. And so you could be making a right on red just as the pedestrian light comes on. So that's where you're going to get a conflict. Right. And so I'd ask you guys to be cognizant of that. It's one of the most dangerous places for a pedestrian actually is crossing at an intersection because of those, especially of those right turning or left turning vehicles that are crossing the intersection when you've got the pedestrian light. So it's not a conflict-free zone unless you design it.
Okay. Yep.
I don't know if you have answers or not, but but is the construction likely to be daytime, nighttime, all day?
Likely daytime. We haven't totally worked that out exactly. Again, once we get a contractor on board, that would, we'd work through those details. I mean, most of the, the curb modifications, I think those are, would be localized to those intersections. So, they'd probably step through. I know when we did the decorative street lighting on the other phases of Park Road, that was done during the day. I know there's been gas work, and you guys have been through a lot with all the utility work that's been going on out there. But the majority of that's been working out during the day. So that's what we'd prefer to do it that way. It's a little more cost effective, a little bit safer for the construction crews not working at night. But obviously there is a trade-off managing the traffic, and we mentioned there's about 8,300 cars a day, so they do need to work through that. So, go ahead, Tracy.
Have you had any discussion about the potential of including a public lot project in this project?
We have not. I'm aware of it, but I don't think that would be part of this project per se. I think there's other complicating factors to it that I don't think those have been worked out yet. If the timing is such that that does happen to come through, then sure, maybe there's an opportunity there to get some economy of scale and potentially some savings. But I mean, most of the contractors that are paving roads, they're looking to pave long stretches. It's not that appealing for them to pave a small parking lot, but not to say they wouldn't do it. But yep.
I don't know if this would be a good time to go back to the driveway issue and just look at it.
Sure, let's do that. Maybe actually, let me pull up the Google image here. That might be a better way to. Yep. So the concern, the driveway, the apron, needs to line up with that garage door, right? That's what the intent is. Okay. So that's for AC Peterson and the Playhouse, or just AC Peterson? Okay. All right. And then these two, the space over here, these are intended to be two accessible parking spaces. Okay. All right. Yep. We'll look at that.
They're all we have for.
The driveway on the other side of the crosswalk?
The driveway.
That's not the theater, right?
No, that's the old sprinkler building, AJ Mathis days. Because he's not really using it.
Use that driveway?
Not, for some deliveries, I've seen him use it.
He doesn't, but he also doesn't like when you block it.
Yeah, that is.
I parked my car with that Honda, it was right there, and I've had it going on my car before. Oh, that was me, I'm sorry. I'm gonna write you back.
I mean, he uses it for something.
He does.
He would have to have a conversation.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's his lot, he's got.
I'm trying to maintain all of the driveways. except for the ones that were recommended to be closed.
Right, so we go, when you go across the street, to the opposite side, is when we spoke about those there.
Yeah.
And there's, I think there's a
Right.
secondary one.
So we did talk to them. He was fine. They were fine with that. They don't-
Did the one over by Plan B?
Yes, that's gone too.
Does that particular crosswalk stay?
Yes. Yes. It'll be rebuilt as a raised crosswalk with the new RFBs.
It's probably the most dangerous crosswalk.
So now, now what about that triangular bump out? Will that disappear because of the new configuration?
It will be an improved layout. It won't be diagonal like that anymore. It'll be more traditional, symmetrical kind of.
Will there be a picture of that here?
Well, yes, you can see it up here, but as Tracy just had said, we've got to make a modification to that because of the access to the theater's garage. It'll change.
So that driveway would then slide to the west a little bit, so it aligns with the garage.
Regarding the sidewalk survey and such, I have two spaces that pond quite a bit. In the wintertime, it's always a problem because of the ice on the sidewalk. So how do I interject that? I can write it on the pad.
If you make a note on approximately where that is, and that's something that'll remind me to take a look at that, if it's on the range or whatever.
What's the address?
220 Park Road.
220?
Yeah, 218, 220 Park Road, the driveway coming out there. It's right where the driveway meets the sidewalk.
Okay.
And then the other one is in front of Daly's Package Store where that crosswalk goes to the island. The street there ponds. So you come down the ramp of the sidewalk and the street ponds. So there's when the snow's melting and stuff, there's always ice there, and I'm always throwing salt in the street. The street, the guys take care of it when they do it, but a couple weeks later or something, it's melting and freezing and melting and freezing. Yeah, right there. That right there.
Yeah.
That's a low spot. That ponds.
At the ramp?
Where the curb meets the street. At the bottom of the ramp.
Right here.
Yeah, right where he's pointing. Yep, right there.
Okay, so, yeah. So that could be,
Just raise up.
we have survey for that.
Yeah.
We're going to pave that section.
Yeah, but if you know that it's a low spot, and you raise it up a little bit, it'll eliminate that.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Did you consider adding a mobility hub like you're proposing in West Hartford Center? A couple of those. Is there a road here?
We haven't talked about it. It's an interesting idea. So the mobility hubs, we're proposing a couple of them in West Hartford Center. Essentially, it would be an area where there would be, bicycle parking. There may be a future, e-bike or e-scooter corral. There might be, it could include things like electric vehicle charging. There might be a bus stop that's in that same general area. So it just kind of gives those multimodal users an area where they could transfer from one mode of transportation to another. So we're looking at the center. We're looking at a couple locations. One is near the Arapahoe parking lot on LaSalle, and then the other one is near the behind the Veterans Memorial on Farmington Avenue. So those would be the two locations in the center that we're currently contemplating. It has potential, yeah.
Dual uses. Put a couple of charging stations and then a bike rack.
The big lot across the street from the
Yeah, clear price.
price.
It came up a couple of years ago about using the ARPA funds to purchase it to alleviate some of the parking pressures there. And then it kind of went off the table, but we brought it up at an association meeting a couple of months ago, and the town manager thought it would be a good time to readdress that, or re-explore. So.
Okay, thank you. Put that down.
I'm curious about the type of pavement you're going to use. A lot of this has to be repaired often. Are you thinking long term to eliminate any kind of repair work down the road? I don't know, I mean, I
Well,
know the cost of
it's-
certain pavement is more expensive than others, but Back Square seems to have a different type of a road, material than the rest of this town. So where are you at that with regard to the type of pavement?
No, I mean, we basically, we'd use our standard super pave, which is, you know, what the DOT would spec out. I think part of the reason, you know, it depends on utility cuts. Anytime you're cutting the pavement, that certainly breaks it down a lot faster. But it's designed to, you know, on a road like Park, you're probably getting 15 to 20 years out. 20 is probably a stretch, but that's kind of the life expectancy for, especially with that much traffic. On residential streets, it holds up a lot, you know, a lot longer because there's not as much traffic. But no, that is something that we look at. You know, we take the vehicle counts into account when we look at the pavement design.
So it's not gonna be the same as it is now, it's gonna be different, it's gonna be a different material, right?
I mean, I mean, I don't know what asphalt they use, but
There's a lot of, like, cracks and potholes and so forth.
yeah, when they're
I'm just saying, this is a project this big,
Mhm.
it seems like, you might, I mean, it just seems like the material would be.
I think what's happening a lot out here is it's a mix of different, you know, there's been different utility patches, things like that, and pothole patching. So yeah, so that's not the, you know, the best quality material you're getting that you're doing those patches with, but
2 or 3 years after that road was paved.
right.
25 years.
Mhm.
So that has a lot to do
Yeah.
with it. Are the specs on Park any different than the side roads in terms of the thickness and courses of the asphalt?
Generally, we would keep it a uniform thickness when we do the mill. We typically mill up to about 3 inches, and then that's what we'd put down 1.5 inches, 2 courses of 1.5 inch asphalt. Any other questions? Ed?
That'd be a roundabout question. Did you consider a roundabout at this intersection?
We did. We have a concept of one. It wouldn't, and unfortunately with the funding for this project, it would have absorbed all of it and more. So we do have a concept, it's actually a peanut roundabout, so it's kind of offset a little bit strange, odd configuration, but I think it would work. So that's certainly something that we're gonna look at, and if as future opportunities come up for funding, you know, that might be something we do consider. That would take care of some of the you know, the weird, you know, this right turn channelized island, some of the issues we were talking about earlier with the lane configuration, heading eastbound and kind of having those two, you know, free-for-all type lanes. So, yeah, there's some pros and cons, but yeah, it is something that we're looking at, especially as the signal gets, you know, closer to the end of its life. That's one of the older signals we have in town. So rather than replace the whole signal, do we move to a roundabout? So something that we're contemplating. So, I'd certainly invite anybody to come forward. Jason has the full plans printed out, so if you want to take a look at something closer, your particular property or just something that you have particular concerns about, we're happy to stick around and talk through that with you. There's a sign-in sheet in the back, so if you haven't on your way in, please do sign in, and that'll help us first of all know who's here, and then we can you know, make sure that we get any updates about the project as we move through the design to all of you folks so you can stay involved with it. So. All right, thank you. Absolutely.